Sometimes I was like crying, sometimes I was laughing. It was like very intense because it was very difficult to change from like music to something like coding, but it was a victory for me.
Welcome to the Junior Jobs Podcast, where we interview recently hired junior developers to give you actionable job search advice relevant to today's job market. Today's interview is with Juliane Marques, who is a musician and teacher before getting her first job in tech. So if you're a career transitioner, this episode is for you. First, a shout out to today's sponsor, Prentus. Prentus is an AI-powered job search platform where you get access to an AI career coach, and if you use the promo code ERIC10 at checkout, you can get 10% off their pro plan. So check out the details in the show notes to get started. All right, Jules, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us.
Hello, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so happy to have you. So before we get into it, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Sure. I think like the first thing is that I'm a Brazilian and I live in Brazil actually. And now I am 34 years old. Previously, I was a musician and a teacher, and I really love to work with that. But I was thinking about like, okay, as a teacher, like a music teacher, where can I go next? What can I do? Where can I like get better? And I thought maybe here in Brazil, nowhere. So I was thinking to have like a change in my career, to have a better life, to be more outdoors, to have more time with my family. And I found like the web developer path a very good path to follow. And now I am here.
hmm Yes, coding definitely is a very flexible work environment. You can work anywhere as long as you have a computer and an internet connection. Right.
Yes.
Definitely. So here at the Junior Job Podcast, we're all about helping people get their first job in tech. So let's jump right into how you got your first job. So I see now that you are a full stack web developer. So
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, yes. How did you get the job?
Yeah, first thing I was trying to I had like a music like bachelor degree and I was thinking, okay, what should I do? So I tried to study by myself, like coding by myself in websites, like free websites on the internet, YouTube, and it wasn't working for me. I need more like discipline and more time. So, okay, I think let's jump to a second degree. And then I start like studying. I found this boot camp that I did. It's like 1 year boot camp. It's a very long boot camp. It's called Tribe here in Brazil. And you have to be like full time student to study for like to have classes for 8 hours a day and study in the extra hours. And I spent a little bit more than 1 year to finish the boot camp because they have like a flexibility, etc. And I studied a lot. Like every day was like sometimes I was like crying, sometimes I was laughing. It was like very intense because it was very difficult to change from like music to something like coding. But it was a victory for me because I had friends in this boot
hmm
camp. They were also in the same process. So everybody helped others and stuff. And it was amazing. And inside this boot camp, they also helped you to with like the soft skills and to find a job and they have like openings for like interviews with great enterprises. And by one of like these inside like interns interviews, I went to the Telefonica interview and got the job. But it was not exactly direct as a full stack. I entered as like system analyst first.
I really liked how you talked about how It was a 1-year immersive program. It's almost like learning a foreign language to me, learning to code, right? If
Yes.
if you
Mhm.
spent maybe a couple hours a day, you'll make progress, but not nearly as much as if you went and lived in the country, right? And you completely
Mhm. For
immerse
sure.
yourself in that world. So that immersive program, I think is a great example of that.
Mhm.
And then you
Yes.
mentioned there's some career services, soft skills
Yes.
branch of your boot camp. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So if you're evaluating a boot camp, if anybody here listening, I would definitely encourage you to look at their placement rate, look at the relationships that they have with employers. It's definitely possible to get a job as a self-taught developer. I would just say it's harder because whether it's a boot camp or college, these institutions have relationships in the community with employers. And that's, I would even argue, the primary benefit that you get of when you join a boot camp or a college is these connections that you have, right? So let's talk about that system analyst role first. You're currently now a full stack web developer. So why systems analysis first and why not straight into web development?
Yes. The job vacancies, they were open inside like the boot camp with like this whole process for Telefonica. And we had like interviews with like 10 people in a room on like Zoom or Google Meets, etc. And we were talking, discussing, but all like the web developers roles were filled with like other people, especially men in this case. But the enterprise needed to fill some roles with women because like the diversity factors that is very important now. For example, some girls that I know, they went to marketing, some girls to design, and I went to this role with like system analyst because I used to know how to deal with like MySQL and database stuffs. Because during the boot camp, we learned like first like introduction to coding. So we knew a little bit of each stuff. And then by chance, I was put on the analyst system role because of the MySQL, actually.
A lot of new developers, when they're looking for their first role, just do a generic search of looking for a software engineer, web developer, and they're all looking for the software engineering role. But I feel like what's often missed is starting off in a tangential role. So you mentioned system analysis, a help desk, QA. Yes, they're going to require different skills, and yes, there's not 100% overlap. But if you're coming from a completely different field like music or teaching, sometimes it's easier to get into one of these related roles. It's important, at least in the current job market, not to be super picky about what your first job is. It's easier or better, I would say, to get employed in a technically related field, get paid and experience while you actively search for a more ideal role. Better to do that than to be unemployed and to keep job searching, I would say.
Yes, for sure. I think like this first experience as like assistant analyst, it was very like empowering because as like a musician and a teacher, I didn't have like any experience in this new world, like the enterprise world, etc. So it was very like good for me because I knew how, I learned actually how to like work with my peers to understand like the scalability, to understand how
Mhm.
is to have like a manager and in a very good like and big company as Telefonica to understand like the many sectors and how is to like create like to do an insert in the database you need to work with like more like 50 people like 50 people like in other areas. It's very different when you think about like startups and you do everything, you like a full stack developer and you do everything is very different. So it was very like good for me to understand all the, like the system and the enterprise world. And then always be always I was always very clear about where I wanted to get. So I was just like, okay, in my like 101 like reviews, etc. I was just like, yes, I like this job. I really like the team, but I really want to reach like the web developer. Could be back end, could be front end. And I always let it clear that I preferred front end. And my coordinator, she was very nice and she was very open to understand what my feelings were about like, the topic. And she was very helpful. When the first vacancy opened, she just like called me and said, okay, we have like a vacancy in other team. Do you want it? If you want, I'm going to talk to my manager. And everything worked very well to get to the next job. So I think it was the first important step to
Hmm.
enter in the area, to understand the area, and to have like this technical background first.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into being a successful software engineer that is not related at all to the actual craft of being a software engineer, right? You talk about the project management environment, the agile structure you're probably going to be operating in, the names and the roles and the responsibilities of all the different people around you, especially when you talk about the 50 layers of red tape you may need to learn how to navigate if you need to deploy something to production. And then I loved in your example vocal you were about what you wanted your next role to be, because you were so vocal about what you wanted. As soon as an opening came up, who was at the top of their list, right?
Yes.
It was you. They know
Yes.
how you work, they know how hard of a worker you are. What did the interview process look like?
We had like three parts of the process.
Okay.
The first part was like the application with like the resume and cover letter, actually. And from there, they chose some people. And then we have like a group interview with some questions. We have like 1 or 1.5 minute like elevator pitch for like the 10 people in the room. And then they chose, I think, like 5 people to the next stage, and we had like to present some project, to make like a presentation with this project. And each person presented one of like the boot camp project.
Mm,
I presented a project that was in group, and in my room all the other people, they presented like an individual project. And I wanted to present the group project because I wanted they to know that I can work with other people, and how the work was done, if we had like some trouble, how we solved the problems, you know. I wanted
mhm.
to be very open about it, because I know in the back then I didn't know, but now I know that in an enterprise you have to work like every day in a team to collaborate, etc. So I thought it was nice to bring. And from that group, from that like room, I was the only one that was hired. And I really think that is very important for us to show our personality and what we are like. You know how to work in a group, show it. Are you a very like good person, like speaking, writing? Show it. It's very important to sell our fish, you know?
And because you had already been there in that company as a system analyst, you had an advantage going into that interview, especially you
Yes,
knew
yes.
what type of project to prepare for your demo. That's wonderful.
Hmm. Yes.
So now, as we're wrapping up, I want to give you a chance. Any final thoughts for junior developers that are maybe right out of their boot camp or still in their boot camp for how they can be successful in their job search?
Yes, I think like you should prepare yourself in technical ways, in like personal ways, like with the soft skills, because I think nowadays people are really looking for people who knows how to work with other people.
Hmm.
And if I can say like for people who are not in the US, who are in Brazil or other like not so developed countries. Just believe in yourself and prepare yourself. Prepare yourself, like prepare your money to for you to study for 6 months. Prepare your mind to study, prepare your family, because you're gonna need the support from everybody to give the best, to give your best.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed the conversation. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you to all that are listening. We will catch you all next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs Podcast. We hope you found today's interview helpful as you navigate your own job search in tech. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe, as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide. Thanks for listening and have a great day.